Welcome to Communication, Connection, Community, the Podcaster's Podcast. This podcast takes a deep dive into modern-day communication strategies in the podcasting space. We chat with interesting people who make the podcasting and speaking spaces exciting and vibrant. We also dive into the podcasting community with news, updates, latest trends and topics from this ever-evolving space. So strap in. It's going to be one amazing ride. Let's dive into today's episode. Ranasinha has been in marketing since the days of dial-up internet and AOL CDs. Wow. We might have to take a trip down memory lane on that one. Today, he's the CEO of Caxino, an award-winning marketing agency. And over the past 16 years, Caxino has helped over 400 startups and small businesses in over 20 countries grow awareness, reputation, trust, and sales. And we're going to talk a lot about, obviously, marketing today and how it relates to podcasting, how it relates to your business in general. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Carl. Very nice to be here. Delighted to be invited.
I am amazed that your experience in marketing goes back to dial-up internet and AOL. You've got mail. So a lot has changed since then, I would say.
Yes and no. I mean, lots of people would say, oh my goodness, marketing has changed so much. It's continuing to evolve at such an amazing rate. This, that, and the other. But actually, I'm not so sure I wouldn't actually say that was actually true, because I think a lot of what marketing is hasn't changed at all in terms of the way that human beings look and consider and evaluate products or services at an emotional level within context hasn't changed for thousands of years. Right now, sure, the tools have changed. Absolutely. The execution has changed. Sure. The tools certainly have changed. To be honest, the tools get in the way of marketing. And what do I mean by that? Marketing is about affecting a change in an industry, in a society, in a company, in an individual, so that the end result after marketing is different would have been if marketing wasn't there, right? It's about affecting change. And if we're talking about marketing from the aspect of sales, which marketing pretty much is, it's about creating an emotion in the minds of your buyer that predetermines a bias towards your product or service over and above your competitors, right? All marketing will actually do is to create mental structures, resonances within the brain, so that when I'm in the moment for buying more washing powder, I may consider your brand of washing powder along with the 3, 4, 5 other brands of washing powder that I normally buy. Okay? That's all marketing can actually do. And anybody who tells you otherwise is living in la-la land. Because the human mind is far more complex than what I call marketing bros would have you believe. Are you familiar, Carl, with the term marketing bro? I did invent the term, okay?
I'm not familiar with it, actually.
If I describe a marketing bro to you, you will certainly know the type of person I mean. I talk about the people who are invariably in their mid to late 20s, crouching in front of Lamborghinis, throwing gang signs.
Okay.
These people who think that all you have to do with marketing is throw some data into some AI engine and have it vomit out 1,000 really, really cheesy, clichéd images with 1,000 headlines and 1,000 subheads, and you throw that all into a algorithm to vomit out some creative execution and job done. Okay? What I'm talking about is understanding your customer to the point where you create communication that evokes an emotional response.
I was just going to say the emotion piece too. We see that not necessarily in the detergent aisle for clothing, but we see the emotional piece, for example, when we're at the checkout and the chocolate bars and chips are there, as opposed to, you don't put celery in the checkout line. People probably wouldn't buy it. There's not an emotional response that is,
well, there is an emotional response, but it's not a positive one, is it?
It's not the one from a sales perspective, from a marketing perspective.
Absolutely.
That's why it's that experience, it's that journey. I always think about when I was a kid growing up, one of my favorite candy bars back then was a chocolate bar called Jersey Milk. Don't know if you've heard of it, but anyways, I loved it as a kid growing up. Now, I limit them, shall we say. But if I saw that, of course, at the checkout line, I would always be bugging my parents. Can I get a Jersey Milk? Can I get a Jersey? No, it'll spoil your supper. You know the routine. But you said something very interesting too, that marketing there's more depth to it than we think there is, but it also hasn't changed in thousands of years. But you did mention that the tools have changed. How have the tools affected, positively or negatively, the journey or the experience in marketing?
Okay. In the old days, when TV was black and white, when AOL CDs and dial-up internet, no. Okay. In the old days, marketing with an uppercase M used to be primarily about persuading people, influencing their behavior in order to deliver a commercial result, right? And as a consequence, the best marketers of the day were familiar with concepts like, human behavior, human insight, psychology, what we call behavioral science today, which is just a rebranding of psychology, really, okay? Today, I have the feeling that 99% of the marketing that we see as consumers, okay, especially on the online space, has been created to be more concerned with efficiency than effectiveness. It's as though marketing is seen by the organization as like a branch of logistics. What am I talking about? Efficiency and effectiveness, okay? So, effectiveness is what we're going for. Effectiveness is how well we do something, how well we're doing to achieving our goals, how successful we are in delivering what we set out to do, right? Efficiency, in contrast, is a ratio. Efficiency is about how much input you make to deliver a particular output. And as a consequence, by chasing efficiency metrics, the idea is to meet a particular output for less and less input. So that type of mentality works in other areas of the business. If you're making widgets, okay, if you look at that manufacturing process of the widget, if you can make that widget for a lower cost, right, maybe you can get the raw materials cheaper, maybe you can create some automation so that there's less people touching the widget to actually manufacture it. Maybe you can get faster machines that crank out more widgets per hour, whatever it is. That way, you're decreasing the per widget cost. So this is good stuff. And every other business unit within the organization operates around this kind of Newtonian model, right? For marketing, it doesn't work like that. Because in marketing, we're not looking at logical, rational progress where the answer is always the same. 2 + 2 always equals 4. In marketing, it doesn't work like that. There are a number of ways to achieve the same or maybe an even better result. And also that method to achieve that result can vary depending on the context. It can vary by the person, it can vary by the season, it can vary by the choice of message channel. It can vary by 101 different things, okay? So pursuing metrics based around efficiency above all else, what happens is that by consequence, we exorcise the creativity aspect out of the equation, because we know how much everything else costs. But you can't quantify creativity. You can't say, okay, for this particular marketing campaign, we're going to spend $227 of creativity. What does that mean, right? We can't do that. So instead of doing the basics of marketing, research, segmentation, positioning, messaging, all that stuff, we've come to the conclusion that bad marketing that's more targeted works better than great marketing that's spread wider. Right? Which is why marketers resort to things like tracking cookies, remarketing tags, programmatic advertising, and all that other stuff. And this is why we have things like GDPR and CCPA and PIPL and CPRA and CDPA and 101 other four-letter acronyms that are going to be around, okay? Businesses have created a data-driven, repeatable process for their marketing output, for their tangible marketing output, but one that's devoid of creativity, salience, or resonance. And then they moan why their marketing sucks. And it sucks because it's not evoking a human emotion. There's no emotion being put into that. And this is what I mean. Marketing is about evoking a human emotion. Now, the tools have changed. Of course they have. But that basic predisposition, that basic goal, hasn't changed in millennia. You look at the state of marketing today, right? As an industry, it's about $1.6 trillion, okay? We've had some kind of automation in marketing for at least a decade. If you look at the way that you can target consumer groups in Facebook, Google, or whoever you want, right? You can do geolocation, preferences, political persuasion, gender, whatever else, okay? You've got all of these wonderful tools, yet the effectiveness is going down. So we've got all of this automation, all of these tools, all of this AI stuff, and more of marketing is being ignored.
And is it because we're not creating that emotional experience?
Exactly. There's no idea. There's no concept behind the communication. And we need emotion, empathy, humor, entertainment in order for it to trigger neural pathways to be able to be remarked upon. By remarkable, I mean remarked upon, right? Mm-hmm. So that it's some deep and distant in your grey matter, it comes to the fore when you see that product advertised digitally or on the supermarket shelf or whatever else. And that's the main reason why so much of marketing fails. It's because we're focused all around the tools and not around the concept, the basic communication idea that we're trying to get across to our audience. To be honest, the tools are immaterial. They're secondary. If you haven't got a core, strong idea, no tool is going to work. Let me give you an example. Supposing I spent $1,000 on chef's knives. I bought a really nice, one of these things that you roll up that you see, on these chef programs, right? I get one of these things, super duper chef. I could spend $1,000 on chef's knives, but it doesn't make me Gordon Ramsay, does it?
Not typically.
Right? I can spend 20 grand on a camera, but I'm not going to be Annie Leibovitz. I could buy a Ferrari. I'm not going to be a race car driver. It's not about the tools. It's about having a strong enough idea and then use whatever tool is necessary to best execute that idea according to budget, channel, media, all the rest of it. And this is what people are missing. They're skipping over this stage. So you've got bland, insipid, mediocre messaging that nobody remembers.
And I think that's one of the challenges that podcasters are facing is, and some are beating their heads against the wall or even quitting because they're relying on these tools and they're just spitting out a lot of information, hoping that they're, I'll say hoping that they're the Gordon Ramsay with the 1,000, or his are probably worth more than $1,000, but I get your point. That expensive knife set, not realizing that in order to get there needs to be the correct messaging, the correct calls to action, in building towards, as we've talked about, the emotional response that does drive the audience. That's why I bring it back to podcasting just in this moment, because we do work a lot with podcasters, but those podcasters are also business owners who are but they're utilizing a marketing tool, because a podcast is a tool. That's really all it is, to allow you to put your voice, and now your face, because there's video podcasts, to put your voice and face out there, your image. But if you're not using it correctly, or you're not using the tool or understanding how the tool works, you won't get the results that you want.
Okay, we can use podcasting as an example, okay? Why do some podcasts work and the vast majority of podcasts fail? Because there's not enough meat in the sandwich, right? Podcasters haven't got a compelling initial position, an idea which they can expound upon in 150 directions to be able to create a compelling narrative, storytelling that gets people to come back. Because it's not about finding your podcast, it's about coming back to your podcast, right? That's the holy grail. It's the same thing for anything within marketing. If you're just bland and vanilla, yeah, okay, you may get an eyebrow raised. But, it's not going to put your kids through college. That's for damn sure. Right? Ain't going to work. Okay? We need to take a stand. We need to be strong enough, brave enough, let us say. Let's have the cojones to say, this is who we are. This is what we stand for. This is what we're about. And, you and I can both name 101 podcast hosts who fit this profile. Love them or hate them, you cannot ignore them. And that's the whole point. That's why people keep on coming back. And it's the same thing for marketing. It's the same thing for messaging. And the problem is too many business owners and marketers, for that matter, they jump straight into the tactical execution, and they haven't done the basics for marketing to actually understand customer research, positioning, segmentation, targeting, all of this stuff, so that they can actually have a clearly defined position, not for them, but for their intended audience. Because as people, as human beings, what we do is we pigeonhole, right? It's just how the brain works. So-and-so does this, cause and effect, and it's all very transactional. So unless there's a clear position that when your name, your podcast's name, your brand's name is mentioned, in the minds of your target audience, they can associate your brand with this type of position, okay? From an aspirational standpoint, informational standpoint, educational standpoint, whatever it may be. Unless you can do that, any communication that you then use on top of that is bound to fall flat, because you're putting the cart before the horse, aren't you?
I think some of the challenges too that up and coming podcasters face is they're drawing comparison based on somebody else's experience. So they're saying, well, this individual is this successful with a show, ergo, so should I be, just because I'm doing a show too. So I'll take
which is the total wrong way of doing it. Because what happens is the audience thinks of them and not you, right? Look at 99% of mobile phone ads on the TV, okay? We see the mobile phone on a white background and it's spinning around and it's super close up and it's, ultra high definition and it's perfectly lit and there's some plinky plonky music going in the background, right? And, whether it's Samsung or Google or whomever else, you immediately think of Apple, right? They're all trying to do what Apple are doing with their hardware, and it doesn't work because you just think of Apple, you don't think of Samsung, right? So, you need to forge your own path. Now, that's scary, don't get me wrong, but the object of a brand is to be distinctive in your category. The object of your brand is to be different. So being different starts from day one. So by definition, you can either be a brand leader or you can be a brand follower. Which one do you want to be? Okay. If you want to be a brand follower, it's easy. Do what the other guys are doing, right? But you'll be drowned out in the general sea of sameness, and nobody will remember who you are. So you need to have the balls, if I can use that word, to be different, to be distinctive in your category, so you can take ownership of a particular position, state of mind that your intended audience can embrace, aspire to, acknowledge, whatever that may be, and own that space. And there are plenty of brands who are doing that today. Liquid Death, for example. Okay? They sell friggin' water, for goodness sake. If you look at their advertising, it's like they're selling like 200% proof grain alcohol or something, right? And they have fun with it. Their delivery vans are in the shape of hearses. They embrace the difference. Now, it's not for everyone. If you're used to your little Evian bottle or your nice teardrop-shaped Perrier bottle, great. But they're not for you, and they don't pretend to be for you. They're for a different type of buyer, and they're not embarrassed or ashamed of that. And as a brand, you need to be doing the same.
I love where this has taken us. I have one more question, then I want to give us the opportunity to make sure give you the opportunity to share how people can connect with you. But let me give you the opportunity to gaze into a crystal ball and share, in your estimation, what new marketing trends do you see emerging, let's say, over the next 5 to 10 years? Where is marketing headed?
I think because of what people are calling AI, which isn't really AI yet, but let's just use the terminology that people know, right? Because of that, what we're going to get is more and more brands looking the same. Because everybody's going to be throwing their prompts into a bunch of AI tools, and it's going to be vomiting out diarrhea, right? Now there's an image for you, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to get a sea of sameness. No, already, when you look at marketing today, especially anything online, okay, if you see the creative, if you put your hand over the logo, the messaging could be used by 150 different companies. Already, we have no distinctiveness. We have no differentiation. That's already the case.
We're seeing it in the real estate space here, actually, with a lot of realtors using AI-generated tools to provide their property descriptions, and you can tell. That's
absolutely. Yeah. Because AI tends to use words that real people don't use, right? When ChatGPT came out, 2 Decembers ago or whatever it was, okay? If you do a Google Trends search for the word delve, all of a sudden it shot up because most people don't use the word delve. Very, very rarely anyway. And ChatGPT, for some, 3 or 3.5, whatever it was at that time, had a predilection for using the word delve. It smells wrong. Anyway, you don't know what it is, but there's something a bit iffy here. It's, you open the fridge and it's like, no, there's something in here that needs to go and needs to go now. We've all been there. Okay. I don't care how often you clean your fridge, which is never as often as you say. Okay. Ever. Right. There's something not quite right. And that's why I think the greatest advances that we're going to see in marketing over the next few years are not going to be technological. They're going to be psychological. Because it's not about how AI works. It's not about how Instagram works. It's how the algorithm works. It's how LinkedIn works. No. The question we need to ask ourselves as marketers is, how does the human mind work? How do we game the human mind to tap into those mental structures to be able to embed our message at a cerebral level so that it can be then remembered at the time of consideration of purpose? And that can only be done from an emotional aspect. It can't be done purely factual, because that's not how our brain works. There's a great quote by a lady by the name of Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor, who's a neuroanatomist. It's a quote I use a lot, and my people will tell you that I use it too damn often. And what she says is, most people assume that we are thinking creatures that feel, when actually we are feeling creatures that think. And we need to tap in anybody, no matter what you're selling, who you're selling it to, whether it's B2B, B2C, D2C, whatever else, okay? All of us, we buy here. We buy from our heart first. And then we post-rationalize with our head. We tell ourselves a story to convince ourselves that that was a good purchase to make. But we buy emotionally. Even the decisions that we think we're taking rationally are actually taken emotionally. Unless you're talking about commodity goods, in which case branding becomes very important in various ways. But otherwise, consciously or unconsciously, we buy emotionally and we post-rationalize logically.
Wow. I am so astounded by our conversation today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you need to get out more, clearly.
I'll give you that one, my friend. A very deep dive into marketing. And you know what? I'm sure that our audience is going to glean a lot out of this, just because of the fact that there are many podcasters out there who need to consider a number of the things that we've touched on today. However, what I want to do is give you the opportunity to share how people can reach out to you or connect with you to find out more about what it is that you do. What's the best way for folks to do that?
I tell you, they should all go away and leave me alone in peace. That's what they should do. No, the best way to get hold of me, to be honest, is on LinkedIn. Now, Carl, you may find this extremely weird, but did you know there's only one G Ranasinha on LinkedIn?
I am morbidly surprised. Let's put it that way.
Right. So, best way to connect with me is to find me on LinkedIn. A few times a week, I expound this kind of drivel on my LinkedIn feed with a bunch of videos, and they're small, bite-sized, 1 minute long videos with either words of what I would consider wisdom or something that's pissed me off that day or whatever else. But hopefully people will find it either educational, amusing, entertaining, offensive, whatever. As you know, as long as the reaction to it is not indifference, then I'm a happy man. So find me on LinkedIn. Otherwise, obviously, the website is Caxino, KEXINO.com. And I'm on far too many social media channels. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you how many. Otherwise, just Google me. You'll find me. It's pretty darn easy.
We'll make sure that we post the links to all of those social channels, especially your LinkedIn and your website as well, in the show notes, so people can
That'd be very kind. Thank you.
check that afterwards. Gee, before I let you go, though, to either post something on your LinkedIn feed or inspire somebody else to do the correct kind of marketing, I'll leave you with the final thought.
I think the final thought has to be is to understand. Lots of people ask me, what is the secret in business? How can I be better at business? How can I serve my customers better? How can I differentiate myself from my competitors? And based upon, the number of years I've been on this rock that's spinning around the sun, one thing I've seen time and time again is just do what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. Just doing that will put you at least 80% up on the entire list of everybody else, because most people fail at that. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you tell that your customer that you will give them a proposal on Friday at 10 a.m., you make sure you move heaven and earth to deliver that on Friday at 10 a.m. Not Friday at 10:30 a.m., not Friday at 3 p.m., certainly not Monday at 9 a.m., but Friday. You just do what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it, right? Because I think integrity, a precious and fleeting resource within business, and at the end of the day, people buy from people. And if you can just be trustworthy and honest with yourself and how you deal with other people, will automatically put you in the top percentile compared to your competitors.
I think that's a great place to leave it. G. Ranasinha, thank you so much for being my guest today.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thanks you again for the invitation.
And thank you for joining us today. Special thanks to our producer and production lead, Dom Carrillo, our music guru, Nathan Simon, and the person who works the arms, all of our arms actually, my trusty assistant, Stephanie Gafour. If you like what you heard today, leave us a comment and a review, and be sure to share it with your friends. If you don't like what you heard, please share it with your enemies. Oh, and if you have a suggestion of someone who you think would make an amazing guest on the show, let us know about it. Drop us an email, askcarl@carlspeaks.ca. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. You'll find all those links in the show notes. And if you're ready to take the plunge and join the over 3 million people who have said yes to podcasting, let's have a conversation. We'll show you the simplest way to get into the podcasting space, because after all, we're Podcast Solutions Made Simple. We'll catch you next time.